right? You should not just blindly accept the input and process it. We saw the source code analysis, how we check whether you get the right input or not, with the sample code, right? You check whether it ends with a particular extension, does it have some characters in it, right? But here you have to make sure it doesn't have things like a semicolon or anything like that, so that there is no command. See here, you are appending two commands, doing two things at a time, right? This printing the file as well as removing things. So make sure there are no special characters and things like that. That's kind of sanitization. Okay? So you have to be very careful in scenarios where you are appending, directly embedding user inputs to the commands. So we saw that's a method of attack. The motivation is again what? You want to, here it is mainly the escalate privilege escalation attack, because again, like the file reader program, one cannot remove all these files as a regular user, right? But if this thing is executed as part of a program, like a setuid program, okay, which can be run with the root permission, right? If the user entered normal input, it's fine. That's what you want to, that's why you develop this program. You want someone to be able to use this program by entering regular inputs. But if an attacker can enter this kind of input, he can run this program with elevated privileges and he can delete all the files. As a regular user, he would not have been able to delete those files. But when you kind of let him to pass input to a setuid program like this, it can be run at an elevated privilege, then he can delete all the files at a higher level of privilege. Okay? So there's not much skill required. Someone who knows some shell commands can launch this attack. It will be very destructive. Okay? So you have to be, the solution is you have to have a kind of whitelist or blacklist list of characters that you have to watch out for to filter the input. Okay? So before you directly embed the user entered input, you have to watch out for what he has entered before you execute it. So we saw some solutions in the SQL detection attack module, right? You can do some sanitization, or sometimes you disable running multiple commands. This is running like 2 commands at a time, right? So sometimes you disable running multiple commands. Sometimes you do the parameterization like you can do with Java. Okay? So this is kind of one way of documenting how an attack could happen given the context of the application. The other way, which is more graphic, is the attack trees. Okay, which you will probably like it more. So let's look at an example here. You want to kind of read a message, a very sensitive message, let's say, which someone else is having. Okay, so there could be different ways you could try to read that sensitive message which you are not supposed to know or read. Okay. One way is you convince the sender who is sending to someone else. You don't want, you like someone is sender is sending to a receiver. Okay, so you want to know what he is sending. You are not supposed to know what he is sending. Okay, so you want to know from the sender. You convince the sender to reveal the message. You can either bribe him or you can blackmail him. Right? So sometimes this is all day-to-day life, right? Or you read the message while he is typing it. So you go and stand behind him and see what he is typing, right? That's called keyboard capturing. Sorry, not just reading the screen. Keyboard capturing is really, you could look at what he is typing, but there are software nowadays available to, if you are connected to the system, you can really monitor remotely what is someone typing on that keyboard. Okay, and a way to, and if when we go to the malware chapter, there's a way you can avoid that, but it's a very trivial solution. If you know that someone is really monitoring your keystrokes, how would you prevent someone from really getting the username and password you're entering?
Store it in the key ring.
Store it where?
In the key ring.
The key ring?
Yeah.
How would you really do that? Key ring.
Yeah. The passwords, like passwords, the username, stuff like that. It's all stored on the.
So key ring is a kind of a list of keys or what?
Yeah, it's like it keeps track of username and passwords for like websites and stuff like that. So you know never have to actually type it in.
Okay, so you have to just choose which key you want to use.
It'll choose it based on whatever the web page is.
Oh,
If
okay.
you go to Facebook.
You just have your virtual keyboard.
Yeah, I'm looking at more from a typing a keyboard point of view. The solution, one sometimes people tell is randomize, which means, let's say your password is Apple. You don't type it consecutively like this. Type A and type some random set of characters in your, open up a text editor and type some random characters. Because they cannot know where you're typing. All they can watch out is what characters you're typing. They don't know where you're really typing. So open up a text editor simultaneously and type some jump characters, and then go and type your P, and then some more characters in your text editor, and then go and type your P, another whatever the characters in your password. So that way you're confusing the attacker from really figuring out what you're really typing. Alright. Now read sender's hard disk, which means you have to be able to access the sender's computer, obtain the hard disk, and locate where the message is, right? Or read the messages during transit, which means he has sent it, you kind of hack the channel, or do some Wireshark kind of packet capturing, and then you find out what message is being sent. Now you see here I have listed or, and some and. What does that mean? If it's an OR, you can go through exclusively on this path. So which means the read message attack, read a message is being sent, this attack can be launched either this way, or this way, or this way, or this way. So this is the goal. This goal can be reached one of these four ways, right? And these are sub-goals. In order to reach this goal, you want to reach these sub-goals. And again, these sub-goals can be reached through any of this way or this way. Again, this way or this way. Now with this, you see here, in order to be able to read the sender's hard disk, you have to first access his computer, obtain his hard disk, and locate the message. You have to do all the three in order to be able to achieve this. It's not like you can do one of the three. So sometimes you have to have this AND in order to be able to achieve this goal. Sometimes you have an OR. Or like this, you don't need to do anything further. You just hack the channel and you capture the packets and read it. Right? So now if you look from a path point of view, so this looks like a tree now. So the attack paths are really any of this. So if you can really bribe, you can convince the sender to reveal a message, you can read the message. Or if you blackmail him, you can convince him to reveal the message, you can read the message. So if you look at it from a path point of view, you can have different paths. So now we start really labeling them. So this is state 1, you have 2, 3, 4, 5, and within 2 you have 2.1 either this way or this way. 3 you have 3.1 this way or this way. 4 you can have 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, and then this is just 5 because you don't have anything else. Any questions so far? Okay. So now you see here I have some more numbers here. Okay. So these are called the kind of indicators. Okay. Actually it's called attack indicator. It's just an indicator. The indicators can be either a cost value or a probability value or a technical ability. Cost is really means how much it would cost for the attacker to really go through that path. Okay. Probability really means probability of apprehension. If someone goes through this attack path, okay, what's the probability they will be caught? Okay, so probability of apprehension means how much they are really scared that they will be caught. Okay, so that's inversely related. If the probability of apprehension is very low, okay, it is very difficult to catch the attack, right? So for example, here if you see, reading the message during its transit, like using a Wireshark to capture the packets and looking at it, it is very difficult for someone to figure out you're really doing it, right? Because they don't really know that you're somewhere in the middle of the communication channel and you're capturing all the packets. So the attacker has a very low probability of apprehension. He will not be really scared that he's going to be caught. So here I have just an example 20%, which means it's a very low probability that he's scared, which means it's very difficult for someone to capture the attack, right? 80 is a technical ability. The technical ability is normally given in a range of 1 to 100. The higher the value, the more knowledge you need to launch the attack. So 80 means it's really high value because, of course, it's a low probability of apprehension, but you need a lot of skills. After you capture the packet, you have to know where the information looking for it is. Like you're reading a project, you want to look at the packet header and you want to look at the different contents of the packet and things like that. For all these things, you need the knowledge, right? Whereas if you look at blackmailing or bribing, you don't need any technical ability. You just give the money, they are going to let you send you read the message. Whereas they may report somewhere that they were bribed and you may be caught, right? So the probability of apprehension is quite high in this case, right? So that's how you kind of, how I come up with the numbers. You have to really think from more common sense point of view. And then the cost also, how much it costs to bribe, you have to pay probably a lot more money, like $20,000 to get the work done. But to buy a Wireshark license, it's actually free, but if you want to buy some packet capturing software, it may not cost that much, right? So that's how you really come up with all the costs. Okay? So now we really have to come up with the paths of the attack. Okay? So the attack tree. So we'll finish up with this. Actually, I want to see. Alright. Let's stop with this, but I do want to spend 5 more minutes to do one thing. We'll continue with this. But your last project, project 5, I already posted it, which is on firewalls. So again, it's not a programming project, but it does require you to spend some time. Okay, so start yearly. It's only 10 days or 12 days left. Project 6, which is due the last class, is more on risk analysis, the one we are going through now. Okay? And for that, I really want to assign some sample applications for each of you, so that each of you has something individually to work with. So for that, I want to come up with the kind of mapping